Hi guys and welcome to Pol Ki Pol. I'm with my very good friend Shameen Saba Hussain. Shameen, how are you? We are all under quarantine and we think I think this is the best time to actually get on a podcast and talk about some serious topics. What do you think?
Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone. Yes, that is correct. Now that everybody is sitting on their couches with their laptops, nobody's going anywhere. So that gives us all the time to be connected with, our loved ones and our friends virtually. And internet and the online platforms, I think now we are able to get 100% out of them. We are understanding the importance of their use and how easy it is making these things are making communication for us.
Absolutely. I mean, even in these dark times when we can't even head out, without the fear of being caught by the cops or just to get grocery or being caught by a deadly virus, I think technology has saved our life. Imagine this thing if it would have happened 10 years ago. Only 10 years ago when we had nothing of this sort,
Right,
you know,
right.
and the fastest internet anyone had was around like 128 kbps or something or less than that actually.
Oh, yes.
Just think about it. Yeah, like life would have been hellish back then. But maybe but we are lucky. We are in the situation the way we are. Imagine if you would have been one of those migrant laborers who has to walk around a few thousand or 100 kilometers just to go back home for no fault of theirs. You know,
Oh,
so
that is something which is heartbreaking. I am not sure where the gap is because I can see that in India, various state governments, including the Delhi government, has announced direct health distribution packages, and they have kind of given a commitment that they will ensure that these workers get their rations and the food supplies, etc. But clearly, that is not happening, and these people do not even have the confidence on the government. Maybe the government has never built it. Maybe they will make those promises for press release, and the execution that
absolutely,
actually happens on the ground is completely different story.
yeah,
The thing is, we are maybe we are not able to empathize with the situation of these migrant workers. They do not have work anymore, and despite knowing that there is no easy transport services available for them, they have started walking towards their hometowns in such heat and in such risky situations. So definitely they are going through something very very concerning. We are not able to empathize with that. And even after this news of migrant workers walking towards their home states, uh, I have heard that the UP government has taken some action today
hmm
for moving these workers. So I think there is a gap. There is a large gap between the promises and the execution, which must be reduced, or it should not be there. In fact.
I do not have any expectations out of these schemes which they put out. I think these schemes are put out only to make press releases as you mentioned. And I'm not I'm not complaining about the current government. I'm just talking about government in general. I'm
Mhm.
not any pro political party or anything. You must be knowing that I'm pretty centrist in nature. And in fact, like my recent vote was a nota. Like there is nothing which rings louder than a vote. You can
Yes.
say all that you want, but ultimately if you vote a certain party, it shows where your confidence and where your trusts and your expectations lie in the current scheme of things. And I'm not saying just
Absolutely.
because I voted nota it means that I achieved some great thing, but I genuinely believe it rings in well with today's topic of discussion between the both of us, which is the right to ask questions of authority. you know and before we begin that, like, and by authority we obviously mean government and other authoritarian institutions in our lives, whether it be corporate authority or academic authority or governmental authority. And my thing is, before we even begin that, I would like to say that questioning something or questioning anyone in India, especially the people in authority or positions of authority, is a cultural problem more than an institutional problem, because we have this pathetic concept of respecting elders no matter what, which I believe is unfounded, which I believe is undeserved. And I think we should respect only what's respected, and sorry, what deserves to be respected, and rather than just respecting by default. So on that note, I would like to open the floor for you.
Okay, Paul. Yes, I agree with that. And yes, it's a cultural norm that anybody who is a senior to you must be respected. But I think it's the time has long passed that we change the model or the framework which people use to consider somebody respectable, and it has to be earned instead of, just because you are senior or you are an old person, you deserve the respect.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see a lot of people equating, questioning the government in terms of like equating it with actually putting a spoke in the wheel of the government, which I completely disagree. You must have
Yeah,
faced
yeah.
that a lot.
So unless you criticize the government and unless you ask questions, why was this not done efficiently, or why could not have it have been done in a better manner, or why is something not being done at all? Unless you keep the authorities on their toes, there is always a high probability of abuse of power and position, which I think the examples of which we see on a everyday basis. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
and asking questions, I mean, have we not all through our academics and through our life lessons learned that unless you ask questions you will never be able to make that incremental improvement in the situation, in the cob wheels, I would say. um unless you criticize something, there is no scope for improvement, because then
absolutely.
right,
Absolutely.
there's
There is no
nothing.
incentive. There is no incentive to actually take care of any loopholes that might arise. Like, and what's the point of a democracy if you can't question anything? Then there is no point of it, right? And I mean, I've seen it in corporate also, right? Ki if your boss is questioning you all the time, and this is best case scenario, obviously, it
Yes,
means probably he or she actually wants you to improve upon the presentation. You know,
yes.
and questioning your government is really important, and I think it is very natural for outsiders, like outside India, in the West especially, to question the government. It's easier for them because I think it's a cultural issue, as I mentioned.
Hmm.
In India, our leaders, we take them very seriously because they are mascots of identity. Correct.
Oh, yes, and India, we also have this thing called God worship, right? The very successful or the very popular faces, or for that matter, politicians, movie stars, cricketers. We God worship them. We do not. We give them this larger than life position, and because of which we inherently unconsciously feel that questioning them would be something wrong to do.
Sacrilegious,
Yes,
that's the word.
yes,
Blasphemous. I think if you see, there are like different groups, different communities in our country, and caste, subcastes within those religions, regions. In fact, India is a country where everyone is divided horizontally, vertically, diagonally in some cases. you know sometimes on gender, sometimes religion, region, caste, subcaste, all that jazz. Everyone has a mascot, and everyone, thankfully, is represented more often than not on the political side, on the political spectrum.
yes,
And if you actually go ahead and question someone, a little too aggressively, people believe they are not questioning them with good intent, but rather questioning them to negate the progress of that said community. And I think we take everything personally because of that very reason. I don't think we have many things to feel common about, although we are working on it in our country. But I still think it will take another 20-25 years for us to find a common thread and find something to become more Indian, rather than being part of community X or community Y or community Z. And maybe that is why questioning government and questioning authority becomes such a huge problem.
no, that's true. And now that you have mentioned common cause, I would call it a common cause, which brings people together and enforces the thought process of all the people, despite having different political inclinations. Is the current coronavirus outbreak? If you see in India, especially, nobody is
Mhm.
right now talking about political religious agendas. Uh, no violence is happening. I mean, after the Delhi riot aftermath, nothing has happened. And even politicians, they have changed the way they are talking in media, in their gatherings. I don't know why people are still gathering. That's such a foolish thing to do. I mean, recently the Madhya Pradesh fiasco that happened when 21 MLAs joined the BJP party, and the BJP folks were partying with a large gathering with a large set of people. See, we were not supposed to be apolitical, but this came over here.
Okay, that's true. That's true. And I think one good thing that has happened in the past 15 days, out of the all the bad things that have happened, I've seen the media has also ensured that they aren't sensationalizing things which might cause societal damage. Otherwise, they always do that. You know,
Yeah.
and our media is also quite complicit in not questioning the government, if you ask me.
Oh,
I mean, there
yeah.
are sides of the media which will always question the government no matter what, whatever good they do, but there are also sides of the media, as we really know, and they're called Godi media. And those guys will always support the government no matter what. And I think we should have a more centrist approach to things. I think that helps. I don't know. What's your take on that?
First of all, I think this categorization of people into these, different categories: left wing, right wing, central, far left, far right. I don't know how much that works. Centrist. If you go by the definition, I would call myself a centrist, but other people would perceive me as a leftist.
Yeah, I think I would perceive you as a leftist
Yes,
actually.
yes. So the definition itself is changing from person to person. I know a lot of right wing people who I perceive them as right wing, but they call themselves centrist. And from time to time, they do criticize some government policies which they think is not in the general. Oh, those kids. Some of these people are very close friends of mine, and they do criticize the government policies or executions or the results when they think that it is a genuine case. But the core issue always remains, the religious and the political propaganda, which does not help in the creation of that common cause which brings people together.
That's fair. That's fair. But I still feel we cut each other off more than we need to cut the politicians off their high horse, if you ask me, which is actually quite sad. We keep fighting amongst ourselves online
Yeah,
rather than actually questioning the government,
yeah.
and actually keeping them accountable for their actions. I mean, that's is there any way you think social media has made it much more toxic and much more difficult to question the government than it was before?
I think it cannot be looked at only one angle. I think it has also made it easier for our people to question the government, because now we have easier access to data. Now we have easier access to people through social media when we are asking questions.
Yeah,
And it also
yeah.
helps other people to maybe, even if they don't change their thought process or their direction or their political inclination, they will at least think about it. Ki, okay, these 10 questions have come criticizing the government. Maybe one of them is true. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And and it helps us at least think that, that at least even for a second, we shouldn't think of these people as gods. These are human beings. They have their own agendas, whether they are the BJP or the Congress or the left
Mhm.
wing or whatever the hell,
Mhm.
like the Communist Party or the regional parties. We shouldn't be taking these guys for their word.
Yeah,
There should always be a healthy amount of cynicism that we must employ while thinking and conversing about them.
yeah,
And that requires a lot of subtlety and a lot of sophistication in terms of having a government and having a country, which I don't think we have reached yet. As I said, I
no.
still think we treat our people, our politicians, like mascots.
Oh, yes, I completely agree with that.
Because imagine disagreeing with the government like 20 years ago. What is the max that you could have done? Written a letter to Times of India? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so social media. So in chemical experiments, you would have read about the role of catalyst, right?
Catalyst, yeah. It comes in, doesn't change itself, but changes the whole equation
Yes,
and the
and
reaction.
it accelerates the reaction. So social media for me is a kind of catalyst which accelerates the public reaction, whether it be positive or whether it be negative, the toxicity that you're mentioning about, and the hateful conversations that happen on social media, everybody is aware about that. So social media plays the role of basically a catalyst, which is accelerating or exaggerating whatever is happening, whether it is positive, whether it is negative, I would say.
Absolutely, and it exaggerates both sides, the good
Yeah.
and the bad,
Yes.
right? But as I said once again, our people do not have the maturity to make the difference. You know,
Oh,
like
yes.
they
Yes.
they
Yes.
take they take everything seriously, and I think a little bit of humor once in a while doesn't hurt. And I think we should. One good thing which has happened is every side, because of social media and because of questioning the government, every side has to strengthen their arguments to for or against, correct? Otherwise,
Yes.
earlier it used to be so lazy, right? Like this person or this politician has done this or that because this is what they felt, and he's great or he's bad. That's it. That's where it ended. There
Yes.
wasn't any analysis. There wasn't any thought process behind it in terms of at least those conversations. I
Yes.
have seen a lot of idol worship in my household because I'm a Maharashtrian, and we also love our politics and we love our politicians. And I've seen my parents and some of my relatives, many of my relatives in fact,
Hmm.
talk about politicians as if they were superheroes. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Where's your self respect? Where's your self respect? Like, I can understand, like, Bihar has this thing. If you speak to any Bihari, they all know everything about politics. They love politics,
Of
you know.
course, and that's
And
where I come
Bihari,
from. I am.
yeah, you're from Jharkhand. Yeah, of
Yes.
course. Who am I talking to? You're from Jharkhand. Like, it's like the way people discuss sports. They discuss politics over there, and they're very educated when it comes to politics. In Maharashtra, it is entertainment. It's like, अरे तेरे को पता है उसने ऐसा किया और उसने वैसा किया. I'm like, relax. Like you're not supposed to approach it this way. And I think that makes social media has removed that part at least. Although there are certain sections of social media where idol worship is very common, but we can ignore it. And the main thing of social media and questioning the government where everyone is squabbling with each other. And I think I prefer that to idol worship, to blind worshipping. I think that is much more preferable to me in my eyes. And I think we should. This is the formation of critical thinking, and I think they should teach that in schools.
Oh yes, and but it I'm not sure how the school lessons are happening in the last 10 years, but at least when I was in school and when I was part of
Mm.
the undergrad academics,
Yeah,
I remember some of the best teachers I have memories of. They always used to um, make us ask questions instead of they
yeah,
asking questions and asking us to answer to them.
and forcing us to believe their point of view.
Yes, they would rather ask us, what do you think about this? And that is something which enforces somebody to use the pragmatic part of their brains
Hmm.
and develop an approach which comes from all the angles. Because when you start
Holistic.
holistic approach, yes, that is what I would.
Fair. See, I'll also remind you that you come from, because of your capability, Shamin, you come from schools and colleges which are of high quality. Okay. So I will not expect everyone to have that kind of an education, where I think the kind of education you went through had was a Socratic method. Is that what they call it? You know, where you have to question and learn. The
Yes,
only way of learning, answering and learning, is questioning and finding the answer yourself.
yes.
If I'm not wrong, it's called the Socratic
The
method.
Socratic
Maybe.
method, and in my high school, in my undergrad school,
Hmm.
I think some of the teachers were very good at this. But
Hmm.
in during my MBA, I have seen most of the teachers follow this approach, the approach
Yeah,
of case studies, the approach of
absolutely.
uh,
Critical
critical.
analysis in
Yes,
everything.
yes, in
Yeah.
everything.
So we both have a common background of being part of B schools, right?
Yeah,
So I know what you are talking about. In fact, we had some professors who were like extreme left wing, but they were honest about it and they were like, challenge me. I want you guys to challenge me on my own views. They
right,
never forced it upon us. They
right.
never forced it upon us. I mean, those professors are also humans. They have every right to be centrist, left wing, right wing. Okay,
Correct.
even we had some professors who were extreme right wing, like right wing to an extent we were scared of them, like oh my god. And there were some left wing professors who we were scared of again, because nobody likes extremists, right?
Yes.
Whether you're left wing or right wing, an extremist is an
An
extremist, you know.
extremist is an extremist, and extremism, or I would rather say religious extremism is something which which
Unappealing,
which is unappealing, and our political
dangerous.
inclinations are uh, what do you call it, the legislative and the judiciary affiliations that we have, and our tendencies to criticize that, all come down to that root of religious extremism, and which causes the main issue in the process of asking questions and holding the government accountable.
Yeah, taking things personally.
Yes.
Once again, getting back to the whole thing, right? And so as I was saying, like in my B school also, we had professors who were very upfront about their views, very honest about their positions in life, but they also had something very clear to tell us. They were like, "Boss, you have to come up with your own thought process." Okay.
Always be in that mindset of debate.
Yeah, exactly. Question everything.
Question
They
everything.
have always, I remember all our professors told us the same thing, question everything, which is where I think the West is lagging. I think in the West, they aren't questioning things anymore. Or either they're always questioning or they're not questioning at all, you know.
Hmm.
And I think in the West, what happens is, it's very common to hear this, not my president. It's like, no, I'm sorry, he is your president, whether you like it or not. Like when Obama became president, there were huge swathes of the population where they were like, boss, I'm not going to accept you as my president. You may be officially there, but I won't accept you. When Donald Trump became president, it's so common and so apparent that there are huge swathes of the population saying, you are not my president.
Yes,
you know
yes.
like in fact, some Indian wannabes were posting in 2016, not my president. I'm like, bro, you live in Aurangabad. तेरे यहाँ पे पानी आधा घंटा आता है सुबह 5:30 बजे. पानी भर, तू नॉट माय प्रेसिडेंट मत डाल फेसबुक पे. But that's my that's my only problem. But yeah, in general, I think it's very important to not worship anyone or any ideology for that matter. Whether it's left wing or right wing. you know
Yes.
you should only worship good ideas, good execution, and good tenets of a democracy where you question everything. And many a times I see, and of course I consider myself a little center right. As I said, I'm centrist mainly, but culturally I'm center right. Politically I'm mad center. Okay, I just hate both sides equally, and I believe that is important, to have a critical view on things.
Correct.
And yeah, and obviously there are certain, see, if you think about it, our governance is actually also quite common sense based. Okay, although I mean, I might take those words back at a later stage. But if you look at this thing, something like what is that, Aadhaar.
Yeah.
Okay, Aadhaar was started during Congress, and it was started by Nandan Nilekani, if you know that. He was one of
Yes.
the founders of Infosys,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Nandan Nilekani started out Aadhaar, and everyone is like, the moment the BJP comes out, like these guys are going to kick it out. But no, you had Nandan Nilekani successfully convince these guys, and these guys are also like, you know what, this is good. So we need that consistency in governance, and we also need the consistency from our side in terms of questioning that, will Aadhaar be uh, privacy proof? Is it safe? Are they keeping our data safe? you know I think that is
Yes.
also important, although I genuinely believe Aadhaar is quite safe. Okay, and you can send me 10 links to disprove me, I'll happily read them. But I mean, I support the whole action is all I'm saying. I support the whole process of being able to question, because the day you're not able to question something or someone, you might as well join corporate. you know
Oh my God. Yeah, that is also true.
think about it, right? Like, if people think, like, democracy sucks, like, have you seen I mean, yeah, we are all part of it, but you can't question people.
You can't
You
question whether
can't.
it is an autocracy, or if I can be bold enough, it would be
Risky,
dictatorship.
to say the least. It is risky, to say the least, to question people, in certain environments. And
Yes.
I think we shouldn't take it for granted to question people. And we are lucky that we are part of a generation, and we are part of an era in India where we can actually question even our parents.
Oh yes, absolutely. So
15 years ago, that was not possible.
that was not possible. जो मम्मी पापा ने कह दिया वही पत्थर की
Yeah.
लकीर है.
Pathir ki lakir hai. You were saying something, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was saying the importance of questioning. It does not only lie. Now that you mentioned parents, it does not only lie in the area of politics or corporate, but it also extends to the the dogmatism that we have in our society, and the religious extremism.
Yeah.
Right, unless you question everything. I mean, I have always been questioning the religion part of it, and I have always been in a state of debate with my father, uh, pertaining to certain practices that, as a Muslim, I should be doing, but I'm not doing. So why am I not doing, and why should it be done? It
Yeah.
can be namaz, or it can be any other, celebrating any other festival. It can be Bakrid, where animals are sacrificed. I can debate with my father that there is no need to kill an animal, but he will say, no, as a part of Islam, this is what has happened. This is why we celebrate the festival. It is a tradition. Unless you get on that healthy debate in all fields of your life, I would say that the questioning part is incomplete.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. Now that I remember, like even like as a Hindu, I do question my parents, and within Hindus also there is so much of diversity, as I mentioned. There are castes, subcastes, within regions also there are so many differences, language ka difference, iska difference, rituals ka difference. I always question my parents. I always question my parents. Okay, if you are doing this, why are we doing this? And many a times I just stop at it if it's a very harmless practice. For example, if like every day every day I'm saying every year we celebrate someone shraddha, and shraddha is basically a death anniversary. Okay.
I am
And so what we do is we feed crows. And why do we feed crows? It's because we believe that this crow is the embodiment and personification, not personification, embodiment of our ancestor,
of the
you
person
know
who has passed away.
of that person. Yeah, 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 yeah. And so we put it in a balcony, or we put it outside, somewhere on the street or something, and then we watch the crow come and eat it.
Right.
And then once, and we don't leave apparently until the crow eats it and leaves. And I believe, and this is, and they do it. I've seen my parents do it many times. Whenever I have the time and whenever I am not in office, I have seen them do that. And I always get amused by it. And I know there is no point in asking. So I'm not an asshole. I'm not gonna go and find reasons and poke into things like these and ask, इसमें logic बताओ. Obviously इसमें logic नहीं है, but I'm happy if they are happy. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, but if you're telling me ki because of this religion of ours there is something which needs to be practiced which is against my social sense, or against my ethics, I'm definitely not gonna practice that. Because I know a friend, like she was telling me during in our wedding rituals. At least, I mean, there are friends who are okay with it, but I know a friend who's not, who said that in our weddings, my parents have to touch the feet of the groom, you know, in her caste, in during their wedding rituals. And she's like, that's not gonna happen. And and I am also supposed to touch the feet of the groom, and I'm not gonna do that. And when I heard about it, I mean, I'm an illiterate in these terms, right? And when I first heard about it, I was shocked. I was like, oh shit, aisa bhi hota hai kya?
Hmm.
you know and she's like, yeah, aisa hota hai, and I'm not gonna let this happen in my wedding. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we are lucky enough that we can question these things. We can question authority, we can question religion too. We are extremely lucky we're in that era, and we have the liberty to do it, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I think it's important. So certain things we let it pass, certain things we will definitely fight against. At least that's what I feel. So, Shamin, I think we had a great discussion on this. I think this was a heavy topic. I think we did justice to it. What do you think? Anything else you wanted to touch upon?
If we need, if talking about these things can take hours and hours. We can go on and on. But maybe we can have a second podcast to have the
Actually,
second
touch upon
number.
and yeah, actually touch upon more topics
Right?
in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely in the same realm. Thanks a lot, Shamin. I hope your quarantine is going safe and you are mentally sane. And do take care. and I hope both Mumbai and Pune actually, get rid of this corona menace as soon as possible.
Yes, yes. I wish and I hope for the same. And I would wish you and your family a good health and a safe quarantine at home.
Absolutely. Same to you, Shamin. Thanks a lot. Take care, and you're welcome again to Polki Bowl in the future.
Thank you, Paul.